this computer. Recording in progress. Here we go.
Professional.
Okay. Fine. So, welcome to the Apache Mastermind, Lucas. Here we go. Everything you need to know about the mind in closing. Okay. So, first, what we're going to do is we're going to cover mindset. We're going to go over a few limiting belief aspects, how we can change them, how we can break them, and how this all ties into closing. So, to begin with, there's three key areas that you need to become this leader, the leader of yourself in your life, to lead yourself to become a tribe leader. You need to be aware of your own self-perception, the core values and beliefs that you hold, and how to think about your past, present, and future version of yourself. And when you combine all of these three things, you get an absolute foundation in order to progress. So when we talk about self-perception, right, there's a lot of key areas for who you perceive yourself to be. So if we narrow it down in terms of a sequence, your actions determine who you are as a person. Your actions are determined by your thoughts, and you are in control of your thoughts. Your brain is generating these thoughts all day long, every single day. So what you have to see your brain as is like a generator, like a computer, a tool for thinking, right? As it says here, your thoughts are not who you are. And so if you separate who you are and your thoughts at the same time and who you identify yourself to be, you and your brain can now work constructively together to develop yourself into the boss level character, which we'll go on to speak about. But really, you have to idealize who you want to become, So when we talk about the brain power, it can work against you at the same time. So, your brain is not always going to work with you. If you tell yourself you feel anxious, guess what? You're going to feel anxious. If you tell yourself you feel a certain way, you're going to feel a certain way because the brain reacts to the body's chemistry. Sorry, the body reacts to the brain's chemistry. It's actually vice versa. So if you put yourself in a state of gratitude, your body will feel grateful. You try gratitude journaling before, you'll understand the power of feeling gratitude. It's a buzz. It's an internal light, basically. So what you can do to improve the processing power of the computer, i.e. the cognitive function, not only do you need to put yourself through the mentally and physically challenging situations, but you need the fuel. If it's an engine, obviously it's going to need fuel, right? So you can't be filling it up with the cheap shit. It's going to make you feel like a low testosterone male. Like it says here, right? Push-ups for the brain. So we're talking, the martial arts, meditations, the cold exposure, the sun exposure, traveling around, speaking to new people. And at the end of the day, what this all comes down to is how much you're willing to put on the line, the risk that you're willing to take in order to allow yourself to progress. So who do you perceive yourself to be? You have to ask yourself this question. Do you perceive yourself to be somebody who earns 10K a month? Do you perceive yourself to be somebody who earns 20K a month, 30, 40, 50, 100, 200, 300, 400K a month? Where do you draw the line? Why do you draw the line at that point? Where's the point after that line? Do you break past that line, or are you happy to settle for that? Why are you happy to settle for that? What type of person would settle for that amount of income, that way of life, that way of thinking? So you can really go deep into this and start to elaborate on who you are and who you want to be, basically. So are you an omega male, or are you a fucking alpha? That's what you have to ask yourself, What decisions does an omega male make? Do they sit? Do they lie in? Do they press snooze 1,000 times before they wake up? Or do you just get up and fucking crack on with your day like you know that you're supposed to? So this question also often comes to mind when you talk about these types of things. Jack, how do you change the perception of yourself? Well, it's by breaking the limiting beliefs, because that's what holds us back in every area of our life. If you imagine you're driving down the road, and the road is your path in life, you hit the road works, the construction works. That's the limiting beliefs. So you can get through them. Sometimes it's going to take a bit of time to build over the roadworks, to go around them, to find a different route. So this is how you break the limiting beliefs. You got to stop caring about that fear of judgment. I think Alex Hormozi puts this really well. It's like, do you want your uncle's nephew girlfriend, your uncle's nephew's girlfriend, to really be the reason why you don't post a reel on Instagram, to be why you don't start a personal brand? Or do you want your mum to be the reason because, you don't want her to think of you in a certain way? But think about it like this, if you don't make these decisions and you don't put this in an order, and then one day you look back in your life and you're like 35 and your wife is like mid, your kids are autistic, running around the house screaming, then you're going to look back and you're going to blame your mum when actually realistically it's your fault. So do you want them to be the deciding factor on you actually making a difference in your life, your friend's life, changing your generations, building your own generational wealth? Do you want to be that person, your family? Because there are those people out there who have done this. Imagine our ancestors, they fought wars, they survived through the caveman eras, the ice age, all of this different shit that they went through. And now we are where we are. So our bloodline dates all the way back to the beginning of the earth. We didn't just one day spawn. So think about how much survival mechanism you have in your mind to be able to push past everything else. The limiting belief is just through societal pressure. And that's where the fear of judgment comes in. Do you think that your ancestors from thousands of years ago were worried about how that animal was going to think of them if they don't hunt them down? No, because they only had one choice, and that was to fucking hunt, to kill, to eat, to feed their family, to be that alpha, to survive. They're not gonna forage on berries for the rest of their life, are they? Because otherwise they're just not going to survive. So this is how we move past that fear of judgment. You're not making decisions based off who you are now, but who you want to become. Let's think, right? 5 years from now, everything goes exactly as planned, exactly as you want it to. Who do you want to be? What position are you in? How much money do you make? Where do you want to be living? What girls do you want to be fucking? What kind of people do you want around you? Think of the decisions of that version of you in 5 years' time. Reverse engineer that and make those decisions today. What do they do to be able to have this life? How do they have this life? What tasks have they taken? What have they achieved? What goals have they really set out? Now, think of this and implement it immediately. Because if you do it like this, then you will automatically adjust your frequency in your brain to be thinking much bigger. You're not thinking current situation, you're future pacing your own life. You're putting yourself through a fucking sales process, and allowing yourself to think in the future, think of your goals, think of how that feels, get into the emotions, get specific. Specificity, if that's the right way to say it, is key. That's how you're going to be able to feel these emotions. That's how you're going to be able to think in the present tense, but think about the future. Think I'm just walking onto my private jet, my family, we're flying to Bali, I'm taking them out to my villa in the middle of Colombia, right? And you can really narrow this down and start to experience these raw emotions that you want to feel. I've done it in the past, and tears have even strolled to my eyes because your brain doesn't understand the difference between perception and reality. So look, there are people out there with so much less potential than you, than me, doing so much more than both of us right now. They're making all of the decisions that we're too scared to make. They're living the life that you want to live. They're fucking the girls that you want to fuck. And at every level, you will encounter this, regardless of whether you're at 5K a month, 10K a month, 20K a month, you will start to understand that there are decisions that you're afraid to make. Whether what I encountered was the more money that I actually earned, the more scarce I became. It's like, fuck, I haven't had this money before. I don't want to let it all go. I don't want to let it all go. But you have to let it go because money is a flow. It's an emotion. Emotions are energies in motion. So if that energy that you have towards money is like, oh, trying to keep it as much as possible, is never gonna be continuous in your life. It's gonna kind of like dry out like a drought. If you've only got a select amount of water, you're not going to guzzle it down all at once. But if you got, a fridge full of Evian's sparkling water, you're not really going to give a fuck, are you? You're going to be drinking whenever you want. So that's the same way you need to think about money. It's like air. Whenever you need it, you just breathe and it appears. You can't think of it like a reserve. You have to be able to understand. Like, you don't wake up in the morning and think, fuck, I need air, do you? You just breathe. It's the same with money. You can't think, fuck, I need money. You just have to have it. In your mind, you've already got it. Maybe you don't have it physically, and that's okay. But in your mind, you need to feel like you've got it. You need to be delusional. And a lot of people say this, and it's a kind of like buzzword, like the delusional side of things, but you need to be delusional because that's how your brain will manifest and magnetize everything. It will bring the energy, it will become the energy to motion the money towards you. Now, the difference is between these people that are making all of these decisions and earning 100, 200, 300, 400, 1 million a month, 400K, sorry, or 1 million a month. The difference is that they're taking the risks that you don't. The decisions that they make on a daily basis are who they want to become, not of who they are. Because you don't do this, you get left behind wondering how to fix these small 1% problems, and that's never going to change anything because the small 1% problems is not the majority. The majority is the 80%, the foundations that you need to fix. The foundations are in the mind. Once you fix the mind, it's the only thing you can control. So everything else comes naturally. So why is risk even important in the first place? You might ask yourself. If you don't put yourself in a risky situation, and your life will never change. Everybody says this. Every successful person in the world says this. There've been no successful people who don't take risk. And we only determine something as a risk if it means that this is something that we would not typically do as the type of man that we currently are. Because of this, we tend to shy away from the smaller risks and end up not having the confidence to take the bigger risks because it's about momentum, right? If you take these small risks bit by bit by bit, whether that's investing $100 into crypto, whether that's chucking a couple of hundred into stocks, whether that's investing in a self-education course that you think, fucking hell, I've never spent that amount of money before, then you need to be able to just do it. Just make the decisions, be decisive. Don't think about things too much because with more brain power, we can have the confidence to take on higher risks. If we're thinking about so many different things, it negates our ability to have brain power. Our brain can only have a certain amount of power, like electricity, right? You can't have too many plug sockets in the house because it's just not going to work. The circuit's never going to have as much power. It's the same in the mind. So the decisions that we need to make are going to be based off the future perception of ourselves, the best version of ourselves. The biggest risk you can take is removing your security, getting those credit cards, leaving your job, leaving your home. Everything that that keeps you secure, remove it. Why do you need it? Okay. Well, like the only exception is if you've got kids. If you don't have kids and you're young, like me, my friends who are living here in this villa as well, then you don't need security in your life. You're young, then the likelihood is that you have high test levels, depending on obviously who you are. And at the end of the day, by keeping your security there, you're never challenged to make a change. You have to burn the boats. You have to be able to put yourself in a position where your back's up against the wall and you don't have a decision but to come out swinging with the gloves on, ready to attack from all angles. How does this all tie into closing, you might ask? So everything that you do outside of closing directly impacts your ability to close. Congruency is so vital because if you don't have congruency in your life, then the conviction in your words will transfer as a subconscious registration on the other side of the call because they're never going to trust you. If you sound a little bit and you're doing all of these filler things before your words, no one's going to be able to trust somebody that can't even speak their first language, right? Certainty generates trust, like we can see here. Trust generates revenue. Revenue generates commissions. Commissions generate testosterone. As you can see by this pretty detailed cycle, the more commissions you have, the higher testosterone that you have. So, I mean, do you have any questions so far, bro?
Yeah, I have actually. Give me a second.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so when you talk about the visualizing,
Mm,
what if you're struggling a little bit to create an image? I think because you have to kind of work on your belief already when visualizing flying your family out to Thailand and stuff, because you obviously have to believe it that it's all possible. And then when you create that image in your mind, sometimes it's quite challenging because I think I restrict myself
mm,
in what I allow myself to visualize,
mm. Yeah, it's interesting, bro. So I think with this, like the way that I fixed this problem was I wasn't thinking about it being in the future. I was thinking about it in the present tense. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this is what's happening right now. I am on the plane. You know, write it down if you're struggling to think, because it's easier to write than it is to think sometimes. So if you write down in as much detail as you possibly can, and you're like, look, I'm now on a plane coming out of Frankfurt Airport, and I'm with my family on this private jet. The seats are cream leather. You know, you got a cigar in your hand, you're chilling. What feelings are you experiencing? And because you're writing this in the present tense, your brain's reading this like, fuck, like this is my life. Does that answer your question? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I
Yeah,
actually, it's like it's funny because I heard that before and I tried it the same way, but I think hearing it from you from a more energetic perspective changed it in a way.
good,
So
good.
sense, yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that's I think for me that's really where this whole journey started. Like back in July, or maybe it was June. Back in June, I wrote all of this stuff down, man. Like on it, I had a book, A4 paper, took up about 10 pages, and I just couldn't stop writing. I was just writing. My hands were like blistered afterwards because the pen was like, I was holding the pen so tight, you know, just fucking writing, scribing, everything, dude. So you can really get into it once you allow yourself to open up. So mindset first, sales second. I think that this is the most important thing. The mindset is the foundation. Then once you understand sales, you can build on the foundations, because you can't build a 100-story building on a 10-story foundation. What you can do is you can build a 100-story building on a 100-story foundation. So step-by-step guide on becoming the best closer you can possibly become. Here we go. The abilities of the top 1% closers. They know their process front to back. Because of this, the word for word T script apparently, but the word for word script is unnecessary. Everything is based on objective selling. And what this means is that you're not following like, hi, my name's Jack. Really nice to meet you. I'm currently based out of London in the, you know what I mean? You have check boxes. Okay, you know, what are they doing now? Understand a bit more about their problems. What have they tried in the past? Why is it not working? Have a conversation. Don't make it a script. Allow the conversation to flow. And if you focus on the process, then you remove that ability to focus on the outcome. And it's a case of like building rapport when we talk about that. This is built through genuine connection, skilled questions rather than the typical, you know, where are you from? Because if you build a genuine connection and you ask skilled questions, that allows the customer to open up to answers that they didn't even know they had questions for, then that's when they're really going to start to generate a lot of trust for you, because you can help them lead themselves to the answers. Clarity is value here, nothing else. You know, you can give them all the knowledge in the world. They don't want to feel stupid. They want to feel like they have enough information to make the right decision. So if somebody gives you this think about it bullshit, then it's because they're not clear enough on where they want to go, or what they've struggled with, or really their goals. So many different areas that you can kind of focus on, but clarity is really the main thing here. Every single close has to have this confidence, you know. There is no uncertainty or shakiness in their words. The commissions of the top 1% closer are a minimum of 10K plus every single month. People lie all the time and say that they've hit this 10K a month, but I can guarantee out all of the closers that I've spoken to, 1%, if that, are making 10K a month plus. So objections, rather than going through specific techniques right now, the most important part of an objection is to let them think about it, book in a follow-up, and just kind of go with the flow a little bit. But no, on a serious level, you have to use them as an opportunity to discover more about their problems. So two things can happen here when going through objections. You'll either get to the root of the problem, or the objections move. The husband goes to think about it, the think about it goes to finances, and eventually you're going to boil this down to a place of like logistics or fear. That's really what it comes down to. You know, if they can't afford it, downsell. If they can afford it, it's fear, you know, or they just don't see the value in it. But you can kind of solve that. And again, it comes down really, for me, it's logistics or fear, because if they don't see the value in it, then you haven't really done your job in the presentation. So analogies, the think about it, the typical, the do it yourself. In my experience, analogies are best used when the concern is more based on the fear, because you have to tick all the boxes. You know, can they afford it? Have they got the time? Do they believe the program will work? Why do they believe the program will work? Really kind of dive into this so that they can tell themselves and they can check the boxes off themselves. It's not for you to understand, it's for them to understand. Once everything is ticked off, then you can hit them with a reframe, you can hit them with an analogy. So with the analogies, I wanted to kind of speak. There's a couple here you can talk about. A safe, for example. If they say they want to do it themselves, yeah, look, you can do it yourself. And it's kind of like opening a safe, right? You've got all of the right numbers, but you just don't have the sequence. So you can hit them with a question like, hey, look, if we're in a room together and I gave you a safe with 10 numbers on it, but I didn't write the numbers in the right order, do you think that you'd be able to open it? Yes or no? Yes or no, regardless of what they say. No, because you don't have the sequence. Or yes, but it would take you a fucking long time because you don't have the sequence. So when you do it with a professional, when you do it with somebody who's able to guide you through this process, you have the sequence, because these things, they need to happen in a certain order for you to be able to sustain the weight loss, for you to be able to sustain the wealth, for you to be able to sustain the revenue in your business, right? Or the amount of time that you have free. Otherwise, you'll be going around in this loop, on this hamster wheel that you've been going on for the past 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years. Comes down to 3 main points: your belief, your actions, and your habits. So let's elaborate. Now, the deeper you look into everything, the more you realize it's all linked. Your beliefs determine your habits control your results get you paid. Getting paid is obviously what we're looking to do. So many people try to overcomplicate this process, Why? Why do they decide to do that? To me, it's a form of procrastination. They try to focus on these really small differences, and it's just, they're scared. They're scared to focus on the big thing because it requires the most work. So they want to focus on these small 1% incremental changes that make little to no difference because you haven't fixed the core foundation. So as you can imagine, if they are not putting in the work, you are not putting in the action, or you both don't have any belief in yourself and the product, in your life and their life, how will any deal ever get closed? It won't, because the genuineness of the conversation won't be there and you will be broke forever. And if you look at it in terms of like, when you're coming into the call, the mindset you need to have is like, regardless of what happens, you're going to close this. But you don't want to be attached to the outcome. But you need to have that certainty in your mind so that everything that you says comes across as boom, conviction, boom, confidence. And that's exactly the way it needs to go. So day to day, the morning routine that earned me $14,000 in the shortest month of the year. The most important factors to include in your day and what not to worry about, because everyone always talks about what you should do, what you should do. I think it's very important to talk about what you shouldn't do. Now, the morning routine, think about this as your brain needs to be on the highest frequency version to talk to the highest level of yourself. The high frequency activities, the cold exposure, the sun exposure, if you live in a beautiful country like Thailand, for example, 3 sets of push-ups until failure, cardio. If you put yourself on a high vibration straight away and you do something that you genuinely do not want to do, the rest of your day is a breeze. There is nothing else that can stop you. You get into an ice bath at fucking 6 a.m. in the morning. There is nothing else on this planet that is going to make you feel defeatable, for lack of a better word. You're going to be able to have consistency. You're going to be able to think, well, fuck, I don't care if they say no. I've just spent a minute in freezing cold water at 6 a.m. So the elite level foundations, what you need to do in a day to really kind of level yourself up in such a short amount of time, you need to have 1 hour dedicated to yourself outside of the graft improvement, outside of graft. You need to be looking at your Muay Thai, your training, your weights, your cardio, whatever it is that you want to do, whether that's yoga. You need to be able to dedicate yourself to something for a minimum of 1 hour a day. And it can't really be work related, because you need to have something that makes you money. You need to have something that keeps you creative and something that keeps you, in momentum, in the swing of things. So 2 hours of deep work, I would say, studying your craft, call reviews, script practice, objection handling training, and 1 hour of peace and quiet. top testosterone tips, you're looking at your chest, you're looking at your meditation, because this is something relaxing. You don't really need to talk too much, but you're thinking, you're problem solving, you're in your own mind, you're introspectively thinking about what's the best move to make. How do I do this? What happens if I don't do this? And you're able to look inside yourself, particularly with meditation. As soon as you close your eyes, everything is infinite inside your own mind. When you look out, you're limited to what you can see. When you close your eyes, all you have is your brain. And if you're open-minded enough, then you can really think past everything. So what not to worry about then, what your family are thinking about you leaving your job, what your future will be like. This can't be a concern. It needs to be the certainty. You already are the person who's earning 20K a month. You already are the person who's earning 100K a month. Your brain's up here. This is where you are now. You just need to wait for yourself to catch up for your way of thinking. And that's okay, because life won't always catch up as quickly as you think it will. But then when it does, it happens so, so quick. How will it all work? Don't worry about this. Just do the work. Crack on. The work doesn't care about me, you, anyone at all. All it cares about is the completion. My old man used to always say to me, start now, Jack, and just perfect later. This way you're able to remove the procrastination and just fucking get on with it, to be honest with you. So my little secret, let's imagine that you are the best closer you can possibly be. You're making 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100K a month. How do you do it? By being who you are, speaking as you speak, being authentic. You don't need to speak like this to try and come across like a salesperson. Do you know what I mean? You need to speak from, if you're a guy, you need to speak from an element of masculinity. You need to embrace your true persona. If you're a female, then you need to embrace your feminine qualities, really start to get empathetic with them and start to sympathize with their situation. Because both genders can play different roles when you're speaking to one another. Like a man and a man will be different to a conversation of a man and a woman. Same way if it's a woman and a man and a woman and a woman, So what you need to do is realize what kind of person they are, build the conversation around what type of person you think that they are. And the more you do this, the better that you'll become. It's like a muscle, like you train it in the gym. You'll be able to analyze people super quickly and call their bullshit out straight away. It will be like a metal detector, when you're on the beach and you're beep, 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 beep. That's exactly what will happen. As soon as they start saying certain patterns of words, you're bullshit. And you can call them out on it straight away. It doesn't have to be aggressive, but you can really start to draw them out on their bullshit so that they can help to realize to themselves, because they tell themselves these lies as well. They think that it's true. They're not just telling you because they think that it's, this amazing thing. No, they tell themselves these lies. And that's the most interesting part. They believe it to be true. So the best part about this is if you're authentic, then you have the ability to go undercover, because as soon as they realize that you're trying to sell them something, it's game over. You can write the sale off. You will close a minimum of 5x the amount of deals if you approach each call with the intention to provide clarity rather than trying to sell. So you combine clarity with authenticity, generates trust. Trust generates commissions, like we said earlier. What do commissions generate? Testosterone. So networking was the last thing I really wanted to go over here, because it doesn't really need to be too in depth. Networking really does not need to be difficult. It's literally just making friends. You're just making friends online in the real world. This is why being in good shape is important. This is why being healthy is important. This is why actually being able to provide value is important, because you're not just taking. There is nothing worse than people who just take all of the time. Hey, bro, can you do this? Hey, bro, can you do this for me? Or, I was wondering, could you tell me how you do it? And it's like, just fuck off, because there's so many people on this planet who just want to take, and they don't even realize that they're doing it. They don't even realize. So, if there's anything that I can say to anyone, is be a person of value, provide, and you will get 10x the amount that you give if you're able to provide. You'll get real fulfillment from providing value as well, because the more you do it, the more you'll be able to do it. First of all, the more perception that you have. And value isn't just knowledge. Value is clarity, value is perception, value is experience, talking to people about what you've experienced. They're going to look at you and be like, yeah, this guy's kind of cool. I didn't realize you could do something like that. Or I didn't know about that kind of perception. So if you consistently serve the people, they will want to support you in your mission. maybe you can take every now and again. You can be like, hey, bro, I've just released this. Do you mind sharing it on your story or something like that? If you're already in a position where you're friends and you kind of, you have a genuine connection there, then you can ask. But there needs to be a certain build up, a certain foundation laid before you can even do that. And that is the Apache Mastermind finished and done. How do you have any questions, bro? Think you're on mute, G.
No, I'm not muted.
Oh,
I'm thinking about the question. I did get a lot of value from it, and I wrote a lot of stuff down. I'm thinking about the question because right now I don't have any questions. It
oh,
was really valuable, and what I found most interesting. I mean, everything I had, bro. I wrote so much stuff down, but like 1 hour dedicated to myself, unrelated to work, and the 1 hour of peace, because that's when I like can implement this stuff. Otherwise, writing it all down is kind of pointless. Um, Also like getting those credit cards, you know, I just know it's something I have to do.
yeah, man. And look, the questions, they don't even pop up straight away sometimes, when you go through something deep and meaningful, it's like sometimes the questions, they take a little while to build up. And so a good thing about questions is, one of my mentors told me once, you ask yourself questions, like you ask your brain questions, and your brain will go away and try and solve them. So like subconsciously, it'll work through these problems, and all of a sudden you will have like a clear-cut answer just sitting the top of your mind in the next kind of like 3 days or so. It's happened to me countless times, bro. Like, what I used to say to myself before I left my 9 to 5 job, like, what's the best move here? What do I do? How do I get out of this job? And then all of a sudden it was like, well, just buy this. I was like, oh fuck, like this makes so much sense now. And it just sprung to my mind at like 7 a.m. in the morning while I was waiting for the trains at the train station. I bought the 10K accelerator. And it was like, fuck, like that. I'm going to do this more. So I started to ask myself more questions and started to solve more problems, because your brain is such a fucking supercomputer that it can do anything. So it's really interesting, man.
Yeah. I actually do have one question, even though I kind of feel like what the answer is to myself. I still want to know what you say.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
last time when we on Stu's birthday, when we were out there, I
Yeah.
kind of lack of confidence in them. And we already spoke about me being unconfident because of the fight. You told me you need to forgive yourself, which I did now, and it helped a lot. Um, but in general, because in that situation, you know, of course you can work around stuff, you can fight all these things, but let's just say someone is not in the position to, some people are in those situations and it's like, okay, I just need to be confident right this second. So maybe it's just a mindset shift, maybe it's something from shifting from, okay, I need to be someone here, to maybe providing more value in the network group in general without having the ego involved. Maybe you have some advice around that, because I really felt like a little bit unconfident in that situation, and yeah.
Yeah, in a social situation, sometimes it can be hard to network, but it comes down to that point of like, okay, are you thinking in terms of who you are, or are you thinking in terms of who you want to become? So in that situation, were you seeing past that nervousness? Because the nerves will always be there. Alex Hormozy said this once. He says, courage is not acting without fear. Courage is acting in the face of fear. And so, yeah, it's a little bit of a cringe American phrase. In the same breath, though, is very, very true. So it comes down back to that point of like, do you make decisions based off your future self? Because the future version of yourself, who's earning 20K a month, would not give a fuck about that social situation. And they'd be talking, introducing themselves. Hey, man, I'm Lucas. Nice to meet you. Look, this is what I do. I've been doing this so far. And like, what do you do? Oh, okay, you do this. Well, look, I really like that. This is what I think. And like, I've heard people before say that. And all of a sudden, you can just start to generate conversation. You just get into a flow. And then you're in the boat. It's just socially lubricating yourself. At first, it's a little bit stiff. It's kind of like if you were to ride a push bike and it hasn't been ridden for a couple of years. It's a bit clunky, you know. And then once you oil it up, get the lube on the chain, you're fucking flying everywhere, you know. So it's the same case, man. You've got to socially lubricate yourself a little bit. Maybe get yourself gassed up in the mirror. Sometimes that's what I do, you know, before I go out on the night. I'm like, yeah, just getting yourself out, get better looking every day, you know, just really getting yourself up to a point where it's like, it doesn't really matter what you say. Just make what you say, make yourself laugh, make yourself like feel confident, make yourself walk around with a bit of a swing in your shoulders, you know, get yourself feeling like the boy, put some gangster fucking tunes on, you know, get some 50 Cent on, or get some like, you know, get some gangster rap on, start feeling like the boy walking around with your sunglasses on in the middle of the night. Who gives a fuck? You know? Answer your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, good man. Well, yeah, I actually really enjoyed this, man. So thank you for coming, and yeah, we'll get another one going. Maybe we'll do one every couple of weeks or something. That was quite fun.
It was way better than I thought you would. Like, not, you know, in a way, like this was really valuable.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very glad that we did it together, and we still did it. Yeah, bro. I wish for the others to experience the same next time.
Yeah, I'll put the recording in the Telegram chat. I don't know if I can because it's not recorded to the cloud, but it's recorded directly to my laptop because I got no space on Zoom, so I need to delete loads of sales meetings. But if I might be able to drop the link in here for the boys, and if so, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Cool, bro. All right. Well, I'll see you in about 10 seconds when you come out your room. All right,
Yeah.
brother. See
Thanks.
you.